we are going to be looking at objects in detail. For this assignment, you will need an object in which to draw. So you'll choose something that's rather smaller. Don't make it a large thing. And we're going to be looking at this object in 4 different ways. And this helps you to explore how to construct a drawing, how to lay it out. Because what we want to avoid is what I like to call plop on a plate. This is what we want to avoid, where we put it in the center of the picture or even to the side and we leave all of this blank area and we've done the whole thing in the middle. It just looks like it's some sort of big dinner plate and you put the little bit in the middle. And this is just not as interesting to look at for the viewer as when you enlarge it and you let parts of it run off the edge of your page. It's also called meeting your edges. So your object would actually meet your edge and get cut off in some form or another. And the neat thing about this is when that happens, the person that's looking at your drawing or your painting or even your photo is going to be able to kind of engage with your visual piece because they get to decide what's up here or down here. They get to engage with it. So it's just a really nice way of breaking things up by paying attention to what we call negative space. The positive space is the object. The negative space is what's left, all that blank spot in there. This one has far too much negative space. If we look up in here, we have interesting shapes. Here's my positive space. This is a tape measure, not tape measure. It's like a little roll of tape. A little flap pops down, and so this is what this part was. This is just a draft, but we have this shape here that kind of looks like Oklahoma, and you've got this shape in here and this one down in here, and that breaks up the whole thing and lets the viewer kind of participate. This one is another angle of it, enlarged. And even though, and I'll make these lines darker, but even though most of the tape measure is showing, see how I just took off that little piece over here? It's going to make it, oh look, it connects. That's kind of fun. It's going to make that tape measure far more interesting to look at. And I'll make my lines a little darker so you can see. So let me show you from start to finish how this will go. I am using an 8x8 piece of paper, so I'll grab a new one. I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to measure 4 inches. I want to remind you, I know I've said it before, but this ruler does not start at 0. It starts at the line. So match that line up to the edge of your paper, and now you'll have an actual good measurement. So there's 4 inches. I'm going to go to the other side and measure 4 inches, real light. And then I can play this dot to dot. I spread my fingers out, and I can even though I measured, I can take the lines, and the reason I like clear rulers is because I can see through them and I can line up those measurement lines to the edge of my paper. And if the paper's been cut mechanically, usually it's totally straight. And anyway, I can connect it. Although, there's my finger. Whoops, my finger got in the way. Okay. And then I've got 4 inches again. Just going to put it in the center this time. Match to the top. And line it up. And now I have my quadrant, okay? And then I'm going to take my subject. Now, I am choosing a new subject for this. Isn't he cute? He's a little shooter. He can fly. He's special. Okay, so here's my little guy, my little crawfish. Now, I can go ahead and decide where I'm going to enlarge him, but I can also, what I can do is what's called a viewfinder. You take a piece of paper, you fold it, and you cut a notch out of it, a right angle. And when you open it up, you have this square in the middle. And now what I can do is I can lay that square over my crawfish and see how instantly I can see where my really neat negative spaces are going to be. And so I can draw them. So let me move Mr. Crawfish over. I'm going to draw 4 different little angles of Mr. Crawfish, or whatever his name is, Bob. And it just gives me this nice little structure to work with. And I want to encourage you to draw light. I'm drawing very heavy, but only so that you can see it. I would draw, let me draw faint. Draw faintly first, okay? And you can kind of draw a few lines in there. And then once you feel you're comfortable with the lines that you have, you can go ahead and darken them in, but you don't have to feel like you have to commit to them if you draw them faintly at first. You do have to commit once you've carved it into the paper. So light lines are really helpful. Okay, and I would spend time making him look a little bit more detailed and fleshing out some of the shapes I see. So there's one. And of course making it darker so that I know where I'm going. All right, let me try another angle. I like his tail. So let's do his tail next. Notice, let's see, I think I'll meet the edge here. I like that better. See how I cut that off right there? And it's about here. This is a still life, basically, is what you're drawing. And these viewfinders are really easy to make. It doesn't have to be any special piece of paper. It's just a piece of copy paper I cut. And again, spend more time on it. I'm trying to get you so that this video isn't really horrible. Okay. All right, anyway, you see what I'm doing. Okay, so structure it that way, and I can keep going. Let's see, I'll do the midsection. I'm just turning my paper. You don't have to keep it upright. And that timer means it's midnight. If you're wondering what I'm doing. Whoops. I'm staying up too late. Okay. All right. Again, spend more time. I'm trying to rush through it, so he's going to look a little bit squidgy. Okay, there he goes off the page, and let's see the little wing. And then I can draw those lines in. And I can try, what else do I want? I like his cute little head. I only got one. Okay, so I'll do it there. I'll say, can't see. Okay. All right, so this is the idea. You're learning how to break up the space. So we have really interesting negative space. We don't have boring negative space. Whoa, and I underestimated that. Make that wider. Oh, you can tell I'm tired. My drawing skills are going out the door. Okay. I think you get the point. You want to enlarge things. Now, let's say that if I did something, and let me turn it over really quick, and let me show you a mistake I saw some people make where they had, and I'm just going to draw this. Do it, obviously do this with a ruler, but I want to get through it quickly because I'm already at like 8 minutes. So here's the quadrant. I saw some people, what they did was they drew, and they made it just super small, and they were working on it. And they, it's not that it was bad. It was just dinky. And then when they were done, they had just this massive amount of negative space. And they were like, wait a minute, now what do? I have all of this negative space in here. I'm sorry, but erase it and just make the same shape. Just make it huge. So it's going to be the same angle. It's just that hand, let's say, the hand, you would erase it, but I'm just showing you what I'm saying. The hand would be much larger. Okay? And then so it's still the same angle, it's just that I made it larger. And maybe some of it, because you made it so large, will come off the edge of the paper. I'm making that up, but this hand, I'm making it up. But then you have this, it's just the same setup, it's just enlarged. So you're going to have to meet edges, make sure these negative spaces are interesting and they're not this plop on a plate, big old ring of negative space, or that, an ocean of negative space with a little bit in the corner. So enlarge and try to practice that, okay? So that's the homework for this week, to just draw your outlines out and come ready to paint next week. Okay, thanks.